Nobody could have anticipated that the simmering tensions behind the scenes would explode into a full-blown family showdown. What had begun as subtle disagreements and unspoken frustrations escalated into a deeply personal, messy, and highly publicized conflict, one that shook the hip-hop world in ways few could have predicted. At the center of this storm stands T.I., the veteran Atlanta rapper known for his razor-sharp lyrics, strategic business mind, and steadfast commitment to family values. But this wasn't just a matter of music or public persona. This time, the conflict drew in his own sons, King Harris and Domani Harris, and even pulled the name of one of rap's most formidable figures, 50 Cent, into the fray. According to multiple insiders and public statements, T.I. did not simply watch from the sidelines. When he learned of his sons' alleged actions that involved 50 Cent, he stepped in decisively, confronting them in a manner that left those around him stunned. This was not a casual reprimand. For T.I., respect, loyalty, and the preservation of the family legacy are non-negotiable principles, deeply ingrained in how he has navigated his life both inside and outside the music industry. His sons had apparently crossed a line considered sacred, a line that triggered a response that was intense, emotional, and to observers almost explosive. The involvement of 50 Cent added a dangerous new dimension. Known for his unyielding memory and a refusal to let slights slide, 50 Cent is a figure capable of turning private conflicts into public spectacles in ways that few can control. The question, then, was no longer just what King and Domani had done. The central issue became whether they had inadvertently pulled their father into a feud he had no desire to engage in, a conflict that had the potential to escalate beyond family boundaries and into the wider public sphere. Whispers suggest that 50 Cent may already be aware of the situation, and if he decides to respond in his signature style, the fallout could spiral in ways no one can fully anticipate. To understand how this confrontation reached such a volatile point, one must consider the broader context. This conflict didn't emerge overnight. It had been quietly building over months, rooted in the complex dynamics of the Harris family, the pressures of growing up under public scrutiny, and the unrelenting demands of the music industry. T.I., born Clifford Joseph Harris Jr., has always positioned himself as more than just an entertainer. He is a father, a mentor, and a man who has experienced the highs and lows of fame while emphasizing discipline, respect, and accountability. Over the years, he has consistently stressed the importance of knowing one's boundaries, especially in an era where social media magnifies even the smallest misstep. In T.I.'s eyes, a single lapse in judgment doesn't just reflect poorly on an individual. It can tarnish an entire family's reputation, sometimes irreversibly. Raising his children with these principles in mind, T.I. has long emphasized the need to defend family without unnecessary escalation, to respect others while maintaining a sense of personal and familial pride, and to think before acting, especially in a world where every action can be dissected publicly. These teachings would be put to the test when his sons became embroiled in a conflict that was far more public than anything they had faced before. King Harris and Domani Harris have grown up under the relentless gaze of the public eye. As sons of T.I. and Tiny Harris, they have struggled to establish their own identities in music and other ventures, all while carrying the weight of a famous surname. King Harris is outspoken, bold, and unfiltered. He doesn't shy away from speaking his mind, even when discretion might be the wiser course. His public persona often draws attention, both praise and criticism. Moments of impulsivity or blunt commentary have occasionally fueled debates about his maturity. Yet beneath that brash exterior lies a young man intensely loyal to his family, especially to his mother, and willing to confront challenges head-on when it comes to protecting them. Domani Harris, in contrast, embodies a more reserved, calculated energy. His approach is subtle and measured, relying on his craft and music to convey his perspective rather than verbal confrontations. Yet he operates under the same pressures as his brother, navigating an environment where each action, comment, and public statement is scrutinized. Both brothers share a deep loyalty to their parents, but their differing personalities mean that when they converge on a single point, the outcomes can be unpredictable, sometimes powerful, sometimes chaotic. Small tensions, which might have previously remained private, began to surface subtly. Insiders report early warning signs in the form of cryptic comments, indirect social media posts, and understated jabs that initially seemed insignificant to outsiders. STI, however, was acutely aware of these undercurrents. At first, they appeared as minor youthful disagreements, a normal part of growing up under scrutiny. But when 50 Cent's name became entangled, the stakes escalated dramatically. The history between T.I. and 50 Cent adds a critical layer to this story. The two rappers have had their share of industry conflicts, including disagreements over a failed versus battle and lingering tension from past interactions. When 50 Cent posted an unflattering image of Tiny Harris online, many interpreted it as a pointed attack aimed at T.I. and his family. The involvement of King and Domani in this context was a complication T.I. had neither sought nor desired. T.I. is well aware of 50 Cent's reputation, a battle-hardened figure with a sharp tongue, unrelenting memory, and an unparalleled ability to make private slights public in ways that dominate media cycles. Initially, T.I. attempted to manage the situation behind closed doors. He engaged in private conversations, trying to de-escalate tensions without drawing additional public scrutiny. His goal was simple: protect his family from a volatile public clash that could damage their reputations, relationships, and careers. Despite these efforts, controlling the narrative proved impossible. Comments, clips, and social media posts began to circulate widely. The public connected dots that may not have existed in reality, linking T.I., his sons, and 50 Cent in a storyline that quickly went viral. A private family matter was now fully public, amplified by social media algorithms and the insatiable hunger for drama. Memes, commentary, and fan speculation flooded the digital landscape, turning a domestic conflict into a headline-making spectacle. As the story spread, broader questions arose. Where should boundaries be drawn in rap battles? Is everything fair game, including personal attacks on family members, or are there universal limits of decency? T.I.'s perspective, at least concerning his own children, leans toward restraint. He uses these moments to publicly emphasize accountability, balancing pride in familial loyalty with lessons about responsibility. What made this confrontation even more significant is that it wasn't the first time T.I. had to intervene. Past incidents of tension within the Harris family had been managed quietly and privately. When issues arose, T.I. addressed them directly, without media involvement, cameras, or public commentary. These earlier conflicts were contained within the family, allowing T.I. to guide his children through mistakes without external pressures complicating matters. This time, however, the spotlight had already fixed on the family. Every action was scrutinized, every word analyzed, and every misstep amplified into potential headlines. That amplification was unavoidable, particularly as the narrative involving 50 Cent gained traction. What had once been a manageable family matter transformed into a divisive public spectacle. The public response was polarized. Supporters of King praised his authenticity, courage, and loyalty to his mother. They framed his boldness as a sign of strength. Critics, however, argued that his behavior was reckless, showing disrespect and a lack of understanding of the consequences tied to the Harris family name. Domani, quieter but deeply involved, found himself caught in the middle, his name inevitably associated with the controversy despite his more measured approach. For T.I., the stakes could not have been higher. It was no longer a matter of managing one son's behavior. It was about both sons, the perception of the family, and the potential involvement of a major figure like 50 Cent. Reputation, legacy, and influence in the music industry hung in the balance. In this world, perception is often as critical as reality. Once a narrative begins to form in the public eye, correcting it becomes extraordinarily difficult. At that moment, the prevailing narrative suggested that T.I.'s sons were stepping beyond their understanding, potentially opening doors to conflicts far beyond their control. The ripple effect of this confrontation extended beyond the family. Fans, commentators, and fellow artists debated the ethics of public disputes in the rap industry. Was loyalty to family paramount, even in public? Could restraint coexist with pride and defense of loved ones? The situation served as both a cautionary tale and a real-time lesson in the perils of living life under a public microscope. As tension mounted, social media morphed into a battlefield. Every clip, comment, and post became evidence, argument, or ammunition in a broader narrative. Supporters and critics alike dissected the actions of King and Domani, debated T.I.'s interventions, and speculated on the potential responses from 50 Cent. The family's private teachings about respect and responsibility were now played out on a very public stage. In the midst of it all, T.I. faced the dual challenge of correcting his sons' missteps while managing the amplified narrative that threatened to misrepresent both their intentions and the family's values. He had to navigate a precarious balance, protect his family, maintain accountability, and control as much of the narrative as possible in an environment that defies control. Ultimately, this saga highlights the complex interplay of family, fame, and public perception. What might have been resolved quietly within any household was transformed into a public spectacle by fame, social media, and the involvement of high-profile figures like 50 Cent. The situation underscores the pressures inherent in growing up under a famous name, the necessity of guidance and restraint, and the consequences when private disagreements collide with public scrutiny. This confrontation between T.I., his sons, and the ripple effects involving 50 Cent is a stark reminder of how personal, professional, and public lives intersect in the world of hip-hop. It's a story about family, loyalty, accountability, and the challenges of maintaining values under constant observation. And though the conflict has already left a mark on the family's public image, it also offers lessons about the responsibility that comes with influence, fame, and the power of reputation in shaping both individual and collective destinies. Nobody could have predicted that quiet tension simmering behind the scenes would erupt into a full-blown family showdown. What began as subtle disagreements and unspoken frustrations quickly spiraled into a deeply personal, messy, and highly visible conflict, one that shook the hip-hop world in ways few could have anticipated. At the center of this storm is T.I., the veteran Atlanta rapper known for his razor-sharp lyrics, strategic business acumen, and unwavering commitment to family values. But this wasn't merely about music or public image. This time, the conflict involved his own sons, King Harris and Domani Harris, and dragged the name of one of rap's most formidable figures, 50 Cent, into the mix. Insiders report that T.I. did not passively observe. The moment he became aware of his sons' alleged involvement with 50 Cent, he stepped in decisively, confronting them in a way that reportedly left those around him stunned. This confrontation was not a matter of a casual misunderstanding or a youthful indiscretion. In T.I.'s world, respect, loyalty, and the protection of the family legacy are non-negotiable. His sons had apparently crossed a line, one he considered sacred, triggering an emotional, intense, and borderline explosive response. The involvement of 50 Cent only escalated the stakes. Known for his unyielding memory when it comes to slights, and his tendency to turn perceived disrespect into public spectacle, 50 Cent represents a force few can control. The question was no longer solely about what King and Domani had done. The real issue was whether their actions had inadvertently dragged their father into a conflict he had no desire to engage in, one that could easily spill beyond the confines of family and escalate into a broader public feud. Whispers suggest that 50 Cent may already be aware of the situation, raising the possibility that it could spiral further if he decides to respond in his signature style. The fallout, if it happens, could be unpredictable and uncontrollable. To understand how this confrontation unfolded, it is crucial to consider the broader context. This was not an overnight eruption. Tensions had been building quietly over months, shaped by complex family dynamics, the pressures of growing up under constant public scrutiny, and the relentless nature of the rap industry. T.I., born Clifford Joseph Harris Jr., has long been more than a rapper. He is a father, a mentor, and a man who has navigated the highs and lows of fame while emphasizing discipline, responsibility, and respect. Over the years, he has consistently stressed the importance of boundaries, especially in an era where social media amplifies even the smallest misstep. In his view, a single misjudgment doesn't just reflect poorly on an individual. It can tarnish an entire family's reputation and legacy, painstakingly built over decades of hard work and strategic decision-making. For years, T.I. has emphasized raising his children with strong values, to treat others as they wish to be treated, to defend family without unnecessary escalation, and to understand that personal actions can ripple outward, impacting those around them. This philosophy was put to the ultimate test when his sons became entangled in a conflict far more public and consequential than anything they had faced before. King Harris and Domani Harris have grown up under the unrelenting scrutiny of fame. As sons of T.I. and Tiny Harris, they have carried the weight of a prominent family name while striving to carve out their own identities in music and other creative pursuits. King Harris is bold, outspoken, and unfiltered. He rarely shies away from speaking his mind, even when discretion might have been wiser. This approach has earned him both attention and criticism. While some admire his audacity and loyalty, others have questioned his maturity and impulse control. Yet beneath King's brash exterior is a young man deeply protective of his family, particularly his mother, and willing to confront challenges head-on when it comes to defending the people he loves. Domani Harris, in contrast, is more reserved and calculated. He prefers to convey his perspective through his music and measured statements rather than direct confrontation. Still, he faces the same pressures as his brother, operating under the public eye while navigating expectations tied to the Harris legacy. Together, the brothers embody two very different approaches to loyalty and expression, one unfiltered and audacious, the other measured and strategic. When these forces converge, the results can be unpredictable, sometimes productive, sometimes chaotic. Subtle tensions began to manifest early, unnoticed by outsiders. Insiders recall cryptic social media posts, indirect comments, and under-the-radar jabs that initially appeared inconsequential. T.I., however, was attuned to these undercurrents. At first, the actions seemed like typical sibling disagreements or generational energy, normal aspects of growing up under the public gaze. But the moment 50 Cent's name entered the conversation, the stakes shifted dramatically. The history between T.I. and 50 Cent adds critical context. Their relationship has long been marked by tension, stemming from past industry disagreements, including a failed Versus battle and other lingering conflicts. When 50 Cent posted an unflattering image of Tiny Harris online, it was widely interpreted as a pointed attack on T.I.'s family. The timing was significant, and the potential for escalation immense, especially with King and Domani allegedly getting involved. T.I. understood 50 Cent's reputation all too well, a battle-hardened figure who remembers slights and can turn private disputes into public spectacles that dominate headlines and social media timelines. Initially, T.I. tried to contain the situation privately, engaging in behind-the-scenes conversations to de-escalate tensions. His primary objective was protection, shielding his family from a public war that could damage reputations and relationships long-term. But containment proved challenging. Comments, posts, and clips began circulating, connecting the dots in ways that magnified the situation. A private family matter transformed into a viral spectacle, with the internet eagerly dissecting every move and word. Memes, hot takes, and social commentary spread rapidly, turning an internal dispute into a public debate. At the center of this maelstrom was King Harris. He did not immediately back down. According to insiders, his resistance intensified the exchange. Rather than apologize or retreat, King reportedly stood his ground, attempting to explain his perspective and justify his actions in defense of his mother. His pushback turned the conversation into a heated back-and-forth, voices rising, the emotional energy in the room thickening to the point it felt like it might snap. Domani, true to his more measured personality, wasn't as vocally confrontational but refused to remain silent. While King pressed forward with his defense, Domani attempted to inject logic and reason, trying to calm the situation while still standing by the decisions that had already been made. The duality of their approaches created a layered challenge for T.I., who now faced two distinct reactions, both rooted in loyalty but expressed in markedly different ways. It was at that point, according to insiders, that T.I. delivered a statement that shifted the dynamic. "This ain't just about you. This affects all of us." Those words carried profound weight. They expanded the conversation from individual actions to collective impact, the realization that one son's choices could ripple outward, affecting the entire family name and the legacy T.I. had meticulously cultivated over decades. The concern wasn't merely the current beef with 50 Cent, but the possibility that a single misstep could irreparably tarnish the Harris family reputation. Even as tension soared, the conversation revealed deeper layers of emotion: pride, frustration, disappointment, and unwavering love. T.I. had to balance his role as a disciplinarian with his instinct to protect his children. He acknowledged their loyalty and the courage it took to defend their mother, while emphasizing that true strength also involves wisdom, timing, and understanding the broader landscape they had entered. The exchange underscored the complexities of parenting in a high-profile family. T.I. had spent years teaching his children restraint and strategic thinking, only to watch these lessons tested in real time when family honor seemed directly challenged. King's bold defiance mirrored his public persona, while Domani's measured approach attempted to bridge understanding without fully retreating. T.I.'s confrontation wasn't merely about chastising his sons. It was a real-time lesson in accountability. He stressed that actions have consequences, especially when they intersect with public figures like 50 Cent, whose influence can transform personal disputes into global discussions. King's decision to wear a shirt referencing 50 Cent's late mother in a diss track video, and Domani's choice to sample Outkast's Ms. Jackson while addressing sensitive topics were moments T.I. viewed as crossing important lines he had previously explained should remain untouched, even in the heated arena of rap battles. The emotional weight of the confrontation was palpable. Witnesses described it as raw, with T.I. simultaneously embodying the protector, the mentor, and the disciplinarian. His approach wasn't driven by anger alone, but by a deep understanding of the stakes. He was acutely aware that every decision in this scenario carried real consequences for his sons' reputations, for the family legacy, and for how the public perceived the Harris household. Even in the midst of correction, T.I. acknowledged the instinct behind his sons' actions. Their loyalty to their mother, their desire to defend the family name, and their willingness to stand up in the face of perceived disrespect all spoke to values he had worked to instill. Yet, he reinforced the idea that loyalty without judgment or courage without foresight can lead to unnecessary conflicts. The lesson was clear. Strength is not only about defense, but also about discretion, timing, and understanding the broader implications of one's actions. As the family navigated this crisis, the public gaze intensified. Social media platforms amplified every clip, comment, and interpretation. Fans and commentators dissected the interactions, some praising King for authenticity and boldness, others criticizing him for recklessness. Domani's quieter, calculated approach drew a mix of admiration and scrutiny, as observers weighed his participation against the backdrop of the family legacy. T.I. now faced the dual challenge of guiding his sons, while managing an emerging narrative that threatened to misrepresent their intentions. Every move had to be measured, every word deliberate, as the interplay of family, fame, and public perception became increasingly intertwined. The confrontation had evolved from a private lesson into a cautionary tale played out on a public stage, a real-time study in the challenges of parenting, legacy management, and high-profile accountability. Ultimately, this saga demonstrates the delicate balance required in navigating personal and public life. What might have remained an internal family dispute became a viral spectacle due to fame, social media, and the involvement of major industry figures like 50 Cent. The episode underscores the pressures of growing up under the spotlight, the importance of guidance and restraint, and the consequences when private disagreements collide with public scrutiny. The Harris family confrontation, centering on T.I., King, and Domani, illustrates the interplay of loyalty, accountability, and the power of reputation in shaping both individual and collective futures. It is a story about the intersection of family, fame, and the music industry, a complex portrait of a father balancing discipline, protection, and public image, and sons navigating the challenges of expression, loyalty, and legacy under intense observation. This story is far from resolved. As public interest continues and as 50 Cent's potential response looms, the narrative may evolve further, reminding everyone that in the world of hip-hop, actions ripple widely, reputations are fragile, and family dynamics can become public theater in a matter of moments. It is a stark reminder that strength, loyalty, and protection must be tempered with wisdom, foresight, and understanding of the broader battlefield. A lesson that T.I. continues to navigate with a mixture of pride, concern, and unwavering commitment to his family. The tension within the Harris household had always been there, simmering beneath the surface. This affects all of us. The gravity of this declaration shifted the discussion from individual behavior to collective responsibility. It underscored the fact that actions taken by one family member could ripple outward, influencing not only personal reputation, but the broader legacy that T.I. had spent decades cultivating. The conversation reached another pivotal moment when T.I. shared information about 50 Cent that allegedly neither King nor Domani had been aware of. Sources describe a sudden, heavy silence following this revelation. In confrontations as intense as this one, a pause of that nature indicates a profound shift in understanding, a moment when the sons realized there were deeper layers to the situation than they had previously grasped. Though the details remain unconfirmed, the impact was unmistakable. What had begun as surface-level conflict now delved into history, personal relationships, and potential consequences that had not been previously considered. Rather than de-escalating, the revelation seemed to intensify the confrontation. King Harris remained steadfast, insisting that he was not wrong for standing by his statements. His defiance was not mere rebellion. It reflected a deep-seated belief in the righteousness of his position and a desire to protect his mother at all costs. Domani, ever the mediator, continued to seek a balanced approach, but the room's energy had shifted too far for easy reconciliation. Recognizing the limits of his influence in that moment, T.I. drew a firm boundary. "If this goes any further, don't expect me to fix it." These words marked a significant turning point. For a father who had long intervened to manage conflict, this was an unprecedented step back, a clear signal that recurring patterns of behavior had reached a critical threshold. The sons were left with the responsibility to navigate the fallout themselves, a moment heavy with the weight of consequence and accountability. The private confrontation, however, quickly became entangled with public discourse. Shortly after the discussion, King Harris allegedly posted a message online. "Sometimes the truth makes people uncomfortable, but I'm not changing for anyone." Though ambiguous on the surface, the timing and tone suggested a direct response to T.I.'s earlier statements. What was intended to remain private now spilled into the public sphere, inviting speculation and commentary. The situation escalated further when 50 Cent responded. His statement, succinct yet pointed, "Y'all better learn when to stay out grown man business," did not explicitly name anyone but was widely understood to be aimed at the Harris family. Social media erupted. Conversations turned into debates, speculations became accepted narratives, and the private dispute between father and sons now involved one of the most influential figures in hip-hop. This latest development amplified the stakes dramatically. The conflict was no longer merely about individual choices or family lessons. It had grown into a public saga watched by fans, peers, and industry insiders alike. T.I. faced the complex challenge of safeguarding his family's reputation while navigating the unpredictable consequences of public perception and the reactions of other influential figures. At its core, this saga illuminates the difficult realities of parenting in the spotlight. Strong-willed children, particularly those with public platforms and personal stakes in high-profile matters, create challenges that extend beyond the usual scope of family dynamics. Loyalty, protection, wisdom, and restraint collide in ways that are uniquely amplified by the digital age. Private revelations can quickly become public controversies, and well-intentioned actions can have unintended consequences. The confrontation also underscores the delicate balance between immediate emotional expression and long-term strategic thinking. King's insistence on defending his mother reflected a deeply rooted sense of duty and personal conviction, while T.I.'s approach emphasized foresight, accountability, and the broader implications of actions on family legacy. Domani's role as the thoughtful mediator highlighted the complexity of navigating multiple perspectives in real time, especially under the intense gaze of public scrutiny. As this story continues to unfold, the Harris family's next moves will be critical. Will cooler heads prevail, allowing for reconciliation and understanding, or will the situation spiral further, leaving lasting marks on relationships and reputations? The involvement of 50 Cent adds an unpredictable variable, one that could either escalate or provide an impetus for resolution, depending on how the family chooses to respond. Ultimately, this narrative is a stark reminder of the pressures inherent in raising children under the scrutiny of the public eye. Every decision carries weight, every misstep is magnified, and every act of loyalty or defiance is interpreted through multiple lenses. The dynamics between King Harris, Domani, and T.I. illustrate the intersection of personal conviction, family responsibility, and public perception, a complex interplay that challenges even the most experienced and thoughtful parent. For T.I., the lesson is clear. Protecting his family's legacy requires not just intervention but strategic discernment, knowing when to act, when to guide, and when to step back. For King and Domani, the confrontation represents a moment of reckoning, a chance to reflect on the broader impact of their actions, and a reminder that loyalty, while admirable, must be balanced with understanding, foresight, and respect for consequences. This unfolding drama serves as a case study in the complexities of modern family life within the high-stakes environment of celebrity. It demonstrates how quickly private conflicts can become public controversies, how reputation and legacy shape decisions, and how the digital age has transformed the landscape of accountability, communication, and influence. As the story continues, one truth remains unmistakable. The Harris family is navigating a challenging crossroads. Every move, every post, and every decision will shape not only their public image, but also the internal dynamics of trust, respect, and responsibility. In the intersection of loyalty, legacy, and public perception, the outcomes are rarely simple, and the lessons learned will resonate far beyond this single incident. The Harris family's situation illustrates the broader tensions faced by families who operate in the public eye. It highlights the need for measured guidance, the importance of setting boundaries, and the delicate art of balancing personal conviction with collective responsibility. Through it all, The underlying theme is unmistakable. Actions have consequences, and in the world of fame, those consequences are amplified exponentially. While the confrontation with King and Domani began as a private family matter, it has become a defining moment in the narrative of the Harris household. It encapsulates the challenges of parenting, the pressures of legacy, and the unavoidable reality that in today's world, private choices can become public events within minutes. How the family responds from this point forward will determine not only the immediate resolution, but also the long-term lessons learned and the enduring impact on their collective story. In the end, this episode is more than just a story about conflict. It is about growth, accountability, and the intricate balance between personal loyalty and public responsibility. It demonstrates the challenges of navigating family, fame, and the high-stakes environment of modern celebrity, providing a lens through which the complexities of human relationships and legacy can be examined. And as the digital world watches, the Harris family must weigh each decision carefully, knowing that the consequences are both immediate and far-reaching. The situation within the Harris household had reached a level that T.I. could no longer ignore. What began as a matter of individual behavior had now expanded to involve both of his sons, King Harris and Domani, in a public controversy with 50 Cent. For T.I., this wasn't just about correcting impulsive actions. It touched on reputation, legacy, and how the family was perceived in an industry where perception can outweigh reality. A negative narrative, once it takes hold, is difficult to undo. At that moment, the narrative spreading online suggested that his sons were overstepping, engaging in situations they didn't fully grasp, and potentially inviting larger conflicts if left unchecked. Insiders say there was a specific trigger, a comment, a post, or an action that pushed T.I. to act. Though details remain unconfirmed, everyone close to the family agrees that this was the point he decided enough was enough. T.I. didn't react impulsively. He acted deliberately, understanding that once 50 Cent's name entered the picture, things could escalate rapidly, spiraling far beyond anyone's control. Yet by the time he intervened, the internet was already fully engaged, dissecting the story in real time. Private family matters had become public fodder. Fragments of the confrontation began leaking, snippets of dialogue, descriptions of the atmosphere, and the more people learned, the more intense it appeared. This was no gentle, measured discussion. According to sources close to the family, it was raw, emotional, and decisive. A line had been drawn, one that signaled fundamental shifts in relationships, expectations, and boundaries. Situations of such intensity rarely end neutrally. They either lead to deeper understanding or worsen as tensions harden. The confrontation reportedly went beyond addressing the immediate incident. T.I. used the moment to talk about family responsibility, long-term consequences, and the weight of their collective legacy. Sources describe the exchange as serious from the outset, with T.I.'s first words reportedly setting a grave tone. "Y'all don't understand what you just stepped into." That was not casual advice. It carried the authority of a man who had spent decades navigating an industry where missteps can have lasting repercussions. King Harris, true to his nature, did not immediately relent. He defended his actions in support of his mother, turning the discussion into a tense back and forth. Domani, more reserved but equally loyal, attempted to introduce logic and reason, trying to balance the conversation while remaining supportive of decisions already made. T.I. faced two distinct approaches, both rooted in protective loyalty but expressed differently, adding layers of complexity to the situation. At a pivotal moment, T.I. reportedly shifted the focus, saying, "This ain't just about you. This affects all of us." The statement emphasized collective responsibility, highlighting that one son's choices could ripple outward and affect the entire family name. It wasn't just about 50 Cent. It was about the long-term implications for the Harris family's legacy. Then came an unexpected twist. T.I. allegedly shared information about 50 Cent that his sons had not known. According to sources, the room fell into silence, a signal that what was said fundamentally changed how King and Domani viewed the situation. This revelation added new depth to the confrontation, touching on industry history, personal relationships, or matters previously unaddressed. Rather than de-escalating, it heightened tension. King maintained his stance, insisting he was justified in defending his mother. Domani continued trying to mediate, but the collision of perspectives had reached a critical point. Realizing that further intervention might be necessary, T.I. drew a firm boundary. "If this goes any further, don't expect me to fix it." For a father who had long stepped in to manage conflicts, this marked a shift. He was making it clear that his sons now had to face the consequences of their choices. Sources say the room went quiet, a silence heavy with realization, the kind that signals boundaries have been drawn and lessons delivered. The story quickly spilled into the public sphere. King Harris allegedly posted, "Sometimes the truth makes people uncomfortable, but I'm not changing for anyone." The timing suggested a direct response to his father, turning a private matter into a public discussion. Social media amplified the tension. 50 Cent responded with a short but pointed statement, "Y'all better learn when to stay outgrown man business." Though he didn't name anyone, the message was understood to target King, Domani, and the family dispute. The internet erupted, transforming a family matter into a full-blown public controversy. King allegedly continued to push back, refusing to back down and posting statements that fueled the fire, while Domani tried to de-escalate with measured responses, urging people not to misinterpret the situation. Behind the scenes, T.I. reportedly spoke to both his sons and indirectly to 50 Cent, stressing boundaries and warning that further escalation could have serious consequences for family dynamics. Industry voices began weighing in. Some criticized King's approach as reckless, others praised his assertiveness. Observers framed the conflict as a collision of three forces: T.I. protecting a legacy, King asserting his identity, and 50 Cent defending his position. When those forces clash, even small issues rarely stay contained. Later reports suggested a private sit-down occurred involving T.I., King, Domani, and communications linked to 50 Cent, aimed at ending the public escalation and clarifying boundaries. Afterward, a sudden quiet fell. No new posts, no public comments. A brief cryptic message appeared and was deleted. Some lessons don't need to be public. The silence suggested either private resolution or ongoing tensions being managed behind closed doors. The real question now isn't just what happened, but what has changed. Even if the public scene quiets down, the lessons, boundaries, and dynamics set during this confrontation will influence the family moving forward. In hip-hop, words and reputation carry enormous weight. This chapter in the Harris family story is a reminder that loyalty, wisdom, and control must be balanced carefully, especially when raising children under intense public scrutiny. T.I.'s intervention illustrates the challenge of parenting in the spotlight, guiding strong-willed children, protecting a legacy, and setting boundaries while the public watches every move. For King and Domani, it is a lesson in understanding the broader impact of actions, the weight of family legacy, and the importance of measured responses, even when loyalty and conviction demand otherwise. As this saga continues, the Harris family's decisions will determine whether this intense episode leads to growth, understanding, and stronger relationships, or whether the public drama leaves lasting scars. In the world they inhabit, every choice carries consequences, and the balance between family, reputation, and autonomy is a delicate, ongoing test.